This Three Beards Media podcast is sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company. When Rob and Chrissy Taylor started following the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in 2012, they fell in love with not only bourbon, but the entire distilling process. Just 8 short years later, in 2020, Revelton Distilling Company was opened, offering an entire family of products including vodka, gin, whiskey, and Revelton Shine. Come visit the tasting room at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, where you can sample one of their many spirits, including 4 gold medal winners. Can't make it to Osceola today? Not a problem, as you can pick some up at your local Hy-Vee or Fairway grocery stores. Follow Revelton Distilling on Twitter or Instagram at ReveltonDC or their website www.reveltondistilling.com.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
Hello and welcome back yet again to another edition of Old Man Strength. I am Tim Johnson, joined as always by Chris Shipley. Chris, how are we doing today?
We're doing. You
want to start
I've had
that
a lot
over?
to drink. Nope. I just watched the ISU women get blasted, and I started drinking about middle of the second half. So, I swear to God, I'm sober enough to do this podcast tonight.
No, I was thinking the other day about how normally when I kick this off, I say good evening, but then I remember we usually release these things in the morning, so everyone listening to our podcast is hearing me say good evening or this evening while they're listening to it at, I don't know, 5 a.m. So no,
It's cute that you think people are really paying that close attention.
I
to
don't
anything
think
that we
anyone's
say.
paying attention. Well, no, hey, our loyal listeners are listening once
That's
again. This is Old Man Strength, the podcast of Three Beards Media. I am already sorry to Rob at Revelton Distilling for the way we have kicked this thing off. Rob, my apologies that Chris has already been just a nightmare of a co-host.
It's technically his fault. His mulberry gin is way too good. So that's what I've been drinking tonight. So
Perfect. Well, you know what, man? We're gonna go ahead and get this train right back on the tracks. We're not even gonna deal with all of our other nonsense. I'm really excited to talk to our guest this evening. Again, I said evening. Jesus. All right. Anyway, so we have on with us actor, writer, producer. I don't even know other nouns to describe this person, but I'm very excited. This is someone that, again, like Andrew Moxon, that I have known tangentially through the online community, through poker and other means. But I'm very excited to talk to our guest tonight, Shane Nickerson. Shane, welcome to Old Man Strength.
Thank you, guys. It's really great to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
yeah, not a problem. We are super excited to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. You say it's great to be here now, but we'll see how this goes. No, Shane, why don't you go ahead? I didn't even give you, I don't think, an appropriate introduction. Why don't you go ahead and take a second and tell our guests a little bit about yourself and your story?
Oh boy. Oh, okay. Okay, sure. I grew up in New Hampshire. I went to Keene State College, which is a small little state school, and I majored in English and theater. I decided to chase down an acting career out of college and moved to Los Angeles in 1995 with my fiance, and she's still my wife now. So we've been here since 1995. I did a lot of jobs that weren't acting, mostly for the first many years, catering and being a bellman and working in a hotel gift shop and telemarketing, just every shitty job you can have. But then slowly I started getting acting jobs. I went to the Groundlings and did comedy there for a long time, and met a bunch of people and moved my way over to production and became a TV producer and then a company owner. And now I'm a dad. I have 3 kids. I got a dog, and we still live here. And I guess, yeah, that's the quick version.
For those of our listeners that saw me post my headshot here, I don't know, a couple months ago, that was inspired by Shane posting his old headshot. And I needed to also find a 20-year-old headshot so I could also feel a mix of pride and shame.
It's great though, man. It's so funny you say that, because it reminds me of, I used to, back in like 2004 to 2007 or so, when everyone was blogging, I had a blog, and I used to love it because I could tell these stories, that you can't do as much anymore with Twitter and Facebook. I mean, you can a little, but it's not quite the same. And one of mine was called An Actor's Journey or something like that. And I went from my very first headshot all the way through wherever I was by 2005, including like old business cards and, just the different styles and some really shitty headshots I had. And I just miss that. I really miss, I know it's going to sound crazy, but I really miss blogging. I miss that community a lot. It was so much better to me than the little micro transactions we have with people now that aren't, I don't think, as much, there's not as much meat on the bone. You don't really get to feel like you know someone the same. It's not the same. And I'm not just trying to be that old guy who's like, it was different in my day. I like reading about somebody. I like hearing their actual take on it, as opposed to just a quick 2 or 3 line quip, or opinion, or angry rant that you're just like, oh, you a dick, or are you just today a bad day?
I get that a lot, by the way.
Yeah, I do too, actually.
No, I, as someone who was a frequent reader of your blog, it is kind of different. So I've mentioned that, we just had Andrew Mox and Julius Goat on, and he has a newsletter now, and I kind of teased him a little bit that basically he just recreated a blog and just calls it a newsletter.
Great, though. What drove me off is not the fact that blogs died. It was that at a certain point, this is going to sound however, but I really felt this way. At a certain point, the audience turned mean, and
Sure.
People just got shitty. And, I had this like pretty loyal, group of people that I read theirs, they read mine. And I had readers that I knew by their names that would reach out to me, and it was great, man. It was a community. And then at some point it just got infiltrated by what I think is pretty common now, where people are just ruthlessly awful to each other in comments, and not just in comments, like even in TikTok. When somebody will respond in a TikTok, it's like just awful stuff that happens when you don't actually take the time to get to know a person. So, and I always described it like this, because I have kids now, and one of my daughter wants to have a YouTube channel, and I was trying to explain it, and I said, you're not going to totally understand this analogy, but not you guys will, but I was saying to her, you're not going to totally understand this analogy, but the more of these lines you throw out into the internet, you just don't know what's coming back up on all of those lines. And for a kid especially, I think it can be very dangerous. And I don't even necessarily mean dangerous like in a predator way, but just it can be dangerous mentally for a young kid.
Yeah.
I don't know if kids are equipped to deal with the level of vitriol and I don't even think it's always real. I think it's just somebody being shock value mean and crazy, rude or out of pocket just because it's funny or something, or weird or something. But I don't think that kids have the ability to discern the difference. And truthfully, I didn't, because I guess what I learned is I have a very weak, thin skin. And like someone like Julius is a great example to me of like, he got, when his tweets blew up and he did that, I don't know if I'm sure you do, when you remember where he posted that story that just completely exploded on Twitter. Yes, you've got a lot of people supporting you, but you conversely have so many people that hate you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't do good with that. That's just me. I don't do good knowing that anyone hates me. So
I
mean,
I was just, go ahead, Tim.
no, I was gonna say, I like literally just tweeting about the podcast we just had with him on. Immediately people like, I made like a silly little joke, and immediately I had people trying to dunk on me without even reading the context or understanding that I was making a joke. And it became this kind of pose law type of thing. Like, everyone is ready to pounce at a moment's, even people I think that are good people. It's not even vitriol. It's just ready to pounce, ready to dunk on someone without even thinking for a second.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. And go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
No, that's okay. I was just going to relate to, you said that your daughter wanted to start a YouTube channel, and my boys, Josh and Jordan, have Williams syndrome, which is a rare disability. And they had been talking quite a bit about wanting to start a YouTube channel for a while. So we had kind of started produced a few shows for them and put it out, but that was one of their really main concerns, where people were going to make fun of them and make bad comments about them because they were different, right? And that was a big hurdle for them, especially Joshua. Joshua was really nervous that people were going to make fun of him and things like that. And when you have strangers behind a keyboard, it's easy for them to do that. That's
it is.
It's really a shame. So,
and the cycle is that something will be released and it'll be primarily good responses. It'll be the people it'll be your circle. The minute though that breaks past into the new people, and then beyond that into those people that are just waiting to shit on everything, then it just gets so toxic. And I lost my appetite for it, and it was so easy for me to just say, I don't need my whole life to be content anymore. I don't need to convert my wins and losses into some sort of social currency. It doesn't feed me. I wasn't doing it for any other reason than as a writing exercise. And then the negative side of that could no longer justify me practicing writing, because I could practice writing without exposing it to a bunch of people. Although there's something very satisfying about having friends and loose acquaintances praise you and say, this is great, this moves me, that made me cry. I mean, that's the dream. But the other side of it was too dark for me. And that's just me. Some people are so good at letting stuff roll off their back. Our Will, who's the reason I even got into blogging, I think he's kind of become a ninja, just deflecting that hatred. I'm sure it still affects him, but doesn't slow him down, doesn't stop him from creating. And I think those people are brave.
So, you were a theater major, though. You have been a practicing actor now for over 2 decades, right? It is certainly cutthroat. Like, you have to learn to develop a certain amount of skin to take the feedback on an audition, or as you're going through the process, working with whether it be directors or either people coaching you on how to audition, that they're going to be a lot more brutally honest than certainly what Chris and I in the Midwest would consider to be polite. Right? Like, there has to be a certain amount where you probably have developed a little bit of openness to critique.
Oh yeah, no, it's not even criticism I'm afraid of. I don't even mind unelegant criticism. Someone who's, that's not a word probably, but what I mean is, like, I don't even mind if it comes off very abrupt and without sugarcoating. That's okay. I've taken notes as an actor. I can take notes as a producer. I get network notes all the time. I've had people not like something that I knew was funny, and you just have to kind of agree to disagree. That's not the part that spooked me. It was fear for my safety. And I was never even threatened, but I just realized that I am exposing myself and my family and my existence to a crowd of people that I stopped trusting, which was like everybody that lives online. You just don't know which person you're going to cross. And I think that like I said, for me, that risk was not worth the reward of some basic sort of positive reaction from in a comment or something. It just wasn't worth it. It's like, I don't need someone to just get my, for some reason I drive them fucking insane, or I make them angry, or your content crosses the wrong person who's absolutely crazy. And now all of a sudden you're in their crosshairs. And I just felt like, I don't want to take that risk. I can't take that risk anymore because I've got young kids and a family, and it's not just me. If I'm auditioning, if I'm, submitting a project or pitching a show to a network, I'm doing that. That's me personally alone saying, this is the thing I think is good or funny or that I hope you like. And if they say, no, it's not, you suck, that's just me that has to deal with that. But you open up your life to the world and it's different. I think it's different. And again, I also think I just kind of outgrew, I have outgrown the whatever was compelling me or driving me to want that audience reaction, want somebody to tell me they love me with applause or cheers or after the show hugs. I stopped needing it, which maybe is a good thing. Maybe I filled whatever hole was in there as a kid or whatever, and just no longer needed to put myself out there so much and risk getting cut down or slaughtered or shredded by an audience. And I think of it as a sign of growth, actually, is not wanting to do it, or at least if I do it again, if I act or anything, it's not for the same reasons, which is like, I'll show the world, I'll be famous and they'll all love me, I promise. That's all gone.
Well, I look forward to that, so that Chris and I don't have to do this podcast anymore, right, Chris?
That's right. Yeah, that would be great. That's the goal. Do you find yourself, obviously you're at a different point in your career, in your life. What was your goal when you started, and how has that changed now? And what do you want to accomplish now?
Ooh, the last part of the question is the hardest, but the other two are fairly easy. So when I first started, I was really it felt like a cheat to go do this as a career. Like to go work in TV or theater was like not a real job. I was on track. Like I worked for Marriott in college, and I went to like a business, like I don't know the right word, but I was training to be a manager, and I went to this training thing, and I don't think I would have done that as a career, but I might have after college for a little bit. And who knows, like once you start something like that, 30 years goes by and you missed out on. And for a combination of amazing reasons, I found this option as like, I can do this. I like this. I like theater. I did this show that lit me up and awakened me to this possibility. So from the beginning, my goal was only, this is fucking awesome. I'm going to keep doing this. This is so fun. And nothing is going to stop me from having a career in this. So even when I moved to LA, we moved out here with very little. We had almost no money. We didn't even have an apartment until we got to Colorado. And this was pre-cell phone. So like we'd check in with my friend who lived out here on the way, and in Colorado, he's like, yeah, we found a place. You got to, FedEx me the deposit for it so that when you get here, we can move in. But it was fun, that adventure. And like all of that I was young. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to suffer. I was like, yeah, I'll work in a coffee house. I'll do your dumb telemarketing. I'll do anything to have a chance at this career. So that was my goal in the beginning. Then my goal shifted into, can I do this as a career that will actually support me, and be successful in it? And that didn't happen for a long time. I'd have these bursts of success. Like I'd book a national commercial, which would pay me a ton of money that would keep me going for 6 months. But those are hard to string together. And you can have 2 years of nothing. I had the fortunate sort of benefit of having a wife who was working. She's a teacher. So she had a full-time job throughout my career. So we always had income, but it's teacher's income. So it's not like we were, living in Beverly Hills.
I'm married to a teacher. You're not exactly rolling in dough. I get it.
No, but we had food and we could pay our rent, and, it wasn't, we were doing okay. But then my career, my goals evolved from having fun into, as I had kids, then supporting a family. and my goals no longer were about my own personal happiness. They couldn't be. I tried to keep that part in there, but then the priority became, can I sustain this thing that keeps growing from 1 kid to 2 kids to 3 kids to now we're buying a house and now we're moving to a different house. And fortunately, I always believed that I'd be able to. So they say you should sort of gamble on yourself and, believe that you'll be able to make the leap. And I always did have faith that I'd be able to. So, and I was able to. So that's, that was nice. And now the last part of your question, what's next and what's my goal now? Hey, you're asking me at like the weirdest time because I just really don't know. I don't know. It's a great question and I don't know the answer.
I mean, so like you mentioned, you book a national commercial and then actually pay. Like I paid for the entire semester of school and rent with one national commercial, and I got like this overly confident, like, oh, this is just going to be the way that it is, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm like, oh nope, that was kind of a fleeting thing. Like, because like certainly, like even now, I will see. No, that was 20 whatever years ago. I'll see the same kind of actor, that same generic face, a name you don't know, but it'll be in like 6 or 7 national campaigns. There always seems to be like somebody that kind of has the it face for a year and a half, and you'll see them in so many, like, holy shit, they made a lot of money for 12, 18, 24 months.
Yep.
But that's still just it, right? Like, unless you can parlay that into something else, they made a ton of money, but that ton of money kind of has to sustain them through a lot of lean times.
Oh, dude, 100%. And I know a lot of those people you're talking about, like those faces where you're like, that guy's fucking in everything.
Yeah,
I know those guys. I used to audition with them. I know a lot of them by name, and there are a very select few that work all the time. Mm-hmm. And then some of those people will get a year, like you said, a year and a half run where it seems like they're in everything, and then they will not work for 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
And then it's like trying to keep their insurance and, trying to keep up with their union dues. And it's a tough business, man. It's a tough career. And it's so cliche, but you're only as good as your last job, or your current, the next job is always a year away, like not a full year, but it feels like it could be miles to that next job. It could be right around the corner, or it might never come. And that almost applies to every level of actor. I mean, until you get to the premium top of the tier actors, even the actors that, you see that are on series now, like when their series ends and that thing gets canceled or it just ends or whatever, they're thinking about what's next, and they're hoping that the next thing's good, and they're hoping it lasts, and they're hoping they don't have to shoot a pilot that goes to 6 episodes that maybe then goes to, full season. And it's a grind. It's a total grind.
It's funny that you say that, because I kind of think that can be applied to a lot of industries and a lot of jobs. I had this, I mean, any conversation you have on Twitter is never a real conversation. I understand that, but
oh, that's not true.
last week, there were a couple coaches fired here in the state of Iowa. And I remember tweeting out and just saying, the guy lost his job. I know that there's going to be a lot of people celebrating because these coaches lost their job, but that's really hard for a man that has a family and things like that to lose a job, regardless of what he made and regardless of what his financial situation was, to tell your kids at Christmas time that you don't have a job, and there are no guarantees that you can get another job. There just aren't.
No.
And the amount of, back to what we were talking about before, the amount of hate and vitriol that I got for that tweet, because they thought I was calling that we should feel sorry for him and that he's got a lot of money, so he'll be just fine. Well, that's not how that works. I mean, yes, money can help, the crash a little bit, but as a human being, that doesn't change your feelings that you failed at a job that you loved, or that you had goals and aspirations and you don't have that opportunity at the moment anymore. It doesn't matter how much money you have. And it's hard. And I think people get blinded by money and think, well, he made $4 million in the last 5 years. he'll be fine. He's happy. That doesn't mean that he is. I mean, a lot of them are
It
like, hell yeah,
doesn't.
give me the buyout. I'm perfectly fine. But there's a lot of people that aren't like that.
No, that's bullshit too, by the way. It's like, yeah, sure. If that much money would feel like a lottery win, yes, you can think that maybe, well, then I just would be happy with someone treating me like a piece of shit. Who cares? I got that money. But I'm in a business where I'm constantly surrounded by varying levels of income, from the working struggling actor to the person who's had a series syndicated that is just done forever. And I can tell you for sure that no amount of money cancels out personal losses and failures and shame over, sometimes it's like you just feel bad for all the people that were around you that relied on the job that now somehow you feel responsible for them not having anymore. Like, it doesn't matter if you've got a huge bank account, if you feel like you've failed yourself or somebody else. And it's like embarrassing to get fired. It doesn't matter who you are. And if you, and that, like, I think about this all the time with fame, because I think fame would be the worst thing in the world. Like, think of all the things that can go wrong in your life, and now think of having to do them on a global stage where your life is getting played out in tweets and on Jimmy Kimmel, and any little mistake you made is a joke fodder, or worse, hate fodder from people who are just bitter and don't think of you as a person. It doesn't matter how much money you have, you're not getting through that easily. It's going to hurt, and you're going to feel terrible. And like you said, you got to go home and tell your family, and it's all the same exact emotions as any of us getting fired would have.
And like, so you've been angry guy in hat on a sitcom next to someone who was just in Us Weekly the week before, right? So you literally shared that kind of that space where there's, I can't think of another industry where it's being on the same page with kind of the extremes of the industry like you have. So you've kind of seen, I think we tended to maybe dehumanize some of those things, and I think certainly you probably have an opportunity to see a little bit more of that human element.
The funny thing about celebrity, and I guess that could apply outside of Hollywood too. It's against anybody who's reaches that level where they can't really walk out in the street. Yes, I think, like, there's fundamental changes that have to happen for them as people, because the whole world wants a piece of them, so they have to kind of shut down a little bit of the openness they might have. But nobody, it's like, if you get that famous, it's not like that fixes anything or everything. Whatever is wrong with you is still wrong. It's just hyper magnified. And same with whatever's right with you. It's like, I firmly believe that it's this construct that, once you're within it, you realize how stupid it is. And you almost, I don't know. It's like, it does not have any impact on people. It doesn't have any impact on the way people behave. How about that? So this is the truth, because I've seen people rise from zero to famous, and I've seen good people and bad people. And whoever you are as a person is going to be the same as you are with, your castle. It's the same. You're going to be the same, hopefully, but mostly the same person. If you're a dick, you're going to stay a dick. You just have, more yes men around you telling you you're not, I guess, the more money you have. And if you're not, and you're nice, like, it doesn't matter how much you have or how famous you are, you're still going to be nice. It's a hard thing to define. If I ever wrote a book, I think I'd call it Famous Adjacent, because I'm so close to so many people who are famous. And I'm so happy that I'm not. It's all I wanted when I moved here, and it's the last thing I would want now.
I think that was the
ironic.
answer I was looking for when I asked you what you were looking for before. I mean, not that exact answer, but I think you just answered the question, right? When you went there, you had aspirations of fame and being, famous, and everybody knows you. And now you see maybe what's important to you is not necessarily that. but being able to take care of your family and raise your kids and have a nice home with your wife and
Yeah.
be outside of that spotlight and still contribute something that you think is important.
Yeah, because I still get to be creative and I
Yeah.
still get to fulfill myself, but I don't have to do it with a bunch of people making comments on me from my Us Weekly spread, you know, or whatever. God, I don't know how people do it. I really don't know how people do it. And I'm so glad I don't have to.
So when you first moved out there, obviously you knew you wanted to be doing acting, creating, you know, like you said, comedy, things like that. I probably writing. Did you think you were going to get into producing as much as you did, or do you feel like that just became
No, no. That was so fluky. I was at the Groundlings and I met this guy there, this guy named Robert Kaplane, and he was a TV producer who came from Bunim Murray. Bunim Murray did like Road Rules and Real World.
Mhm.
One of the like original reality producers, this guy. And he and met this other woman named Melanie Graham were doing this show called Instant Comedy with the Groundlings, which was this improv show for, I forget what network. And they asked me to come be a stand-in for a day. And so I was like, sure, I'll take it. It was like $100. I said, sure, I'll do that. So I came to be a stand-in, which is basically for cameras to figure out how they're going to shoot the show. And they actually shoot it. They put actors in the spots of the real people and get all their angles and go through all the shit. So it was an easy gig. So anyway, I met him that day, which then led him to stay in touch with me and then asked me to come be like this assistant story editor on Big Brother, first season of Big Brother. And I'd never done anything in that world at all, but he was really cool. And he was like, you can do this. It's super easy. And it was so much more money than I had ever made doing all the shit jobs that I had done in LA. So I was like, fuck yeah, dude, I'm in, I'm ready. I needed it. I was like, I didn't have any prospects. Like there was really nothing happening. And I don't even think I had a job. I think I'd just gotten fired from my job as a bellboy because I fell asleep in the bell closet. And then I denied it because when you get caught sleeping and your first instinct is to deny it, no matter what, like,
right. Yeah.
Just rested my eyes.
I'm watching.
Yeah. Or
that.
the opposite, like, or the opposite where someone says, did I wake you up? And you're like, no, I was totally awake. It is just like that.
You're the one that was sleeping. What are you talking about?
Anyway, so he got me that job in Big Brother. And then I just kept working in production. I went from that to go do some shows at MTV with those same producers, and then met another producer there, and I just kept getting jobs. So in the same way that some people move to LA and get acting jobs one after the other, and they never struggle, and it just everything clicks. That was what happened to me in reality production. I couldn't stop working, even if I wanted to. Like there's always this other thing, and I couldn't not take it because it was a great paycheck. And like I said, we started having kids in 2003, so this was around then, 2001, 2002. And it was time. It was time for me to be an adult and make some money. And then I never stopped. I've been doing that since. I mean, it got to a point where my role has shifted over the years to a much more comfortable level of delegation. But I worked my ass off in that world for almost 20 years.
I will.
ahead,
Sorry,
Chris.
Tim. I will be remiss if I don't ask you, because a very good friend of mine, Tim, do you remember when we had the live auction or the live episode? My buddy Mike walked over and offered us some of his nuts, and he
Yes.
didn't realize we were recording. So my friend Mike was my boss at the time. We worked at
Yes.
Wells Fargo when Big Brother started, and that was our daily conversation. We talked every single day after that first episode, after that first season of Big Brother. It was our absolute favorite show. We worked you want to talk about shitty jobs? Sorry, Mike. I know that you're still a manager there, but it was a call center for a bank, and it was absolutely terrible for technical support. And we would talk all the time about Big Brother and how we were convinced that if we got on that show, we could win as a team. So I'm just gonna tell you,
You probably could have. I loved that. That show was so fun. I almost like. So they shot it at CBS Radford, which is a studio lot over in the Valley. and they built this Big Brother compound on the lot, and it was a live set, man. I mean, everything, they filmed everything, and nobody ever knew it was going to happen. And this was really the first season. They didn't produce it the same way they do now, and it's much more like Survivor, where they have challenges, and they'll sort of force people to interact and fight. This season, because it was a Dutch show and it was a Dutch company, they did not want us to edit time or manipulate time at all. They wanted it to play out like security cameras. So we had a really hard time because, American audiences at that point had been through 5 or 8 seasons of Real World. Like we were way past being able to watch security camera footage and have it be entertaining.
And 90% of the time, people are boring as shit.
Right. Yes, that is a fact.
Yeah.
Which is why anytime anything started to happen, there were monitors all over the lot. We had them all throughout the building we were in. Anytime anything started to happen, everyone would run in and go into sometimes into the camera cross, which was this dark cross of cameras that you could like go right up to the window and like see them on these through two, like honestly, it was
two-way mirrors, right?
It was two-way glass. It was like you're in a zoo and you're watching these people interact. It was crazy. And I was so addicted to it. Like I'd sleep there some nights just hoping that something awesome would happen. I'm not even kidding. I got so pulled into it.
So you produced reality TV like people watch reality TV, essentially.
I did. I was an audience member and producer. And I remember like the weird dynamic that happens in that situation is these people become massive celebrities to you as producers, because you don't have any interaction with them. Nobody's talking to them. They're in that room. They're in there by themselves. Nobody's talking to them. So when the show ended and they all came out and we had this sort of like this party after with producers and then the cast, it may as well have been like the royal family was out there. Like everyone wants pictures and everyone's like nervous. And I remember talking to, first season was like, there was this kind of great cast, but 2 of the people I really liked were this woman, Brittany, who had red hair, and she was sort of this kook, this really lovable kook. I remember talking to her the first time and I felt like I was talking to Marilyn Monroe. Like it was so crazy. The whole thing was so surreal. A great first experience that just kind of got me hooked into TV production too. I really enjoyed it. And it fulfilled me in the same ways that, in fact, in many ways more than acting, because I had more power. I had more creative control. Actors are often the last person that anyone cares about on a set as far as their opinion goes. Like, be funny or whatever, but we'll let you know when. And until then, just go wait in your dressing room. But as a producer, you're helping figure out what the bit is, how it's going to get cut in post, what the next episode is going to be. There's a lot to do. And I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe because I'm a control freak.
So you got into that, but you haven't quit acting, certainly.
Well, I haven't like I haven't put out my statement that I'm quitting. I'm just kidding. I haven't done anything for so long. I don't audition anymore. I'm all but done and washed up as an actor. Although lately I was just telling my friend Ruben today that I miss auditioning for commercials because I miss all the people. I miss seeing all the people that I used to see at audition rooms. There was a camaraderie to it, a kind of a glorious mutual suffering that we all endure that I miss.
I mean, because I guess it doesn't feel like that long ago that I was sitting watching TV and going, "Oh, holy shit, there's Shane!" Like it hasn't been that long. I guess maybe maybe 6-7 years. I guess it hasn't been, but it's not like once you got into producing, you were immediately done with the acting bug. Like there was a crossover, right?
Yeah, a big crossover. I was doing it for many years, and Rob Deerdeck, from most of the shows that I've done at MTV, always jokes about how we were probably 4 or 5 seasons into this show we did called Fantasy Factory, and he woke up one morning at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and there was an A&W root beer ad on, and it was I did the voiceover for it, and he was like, "What the fuck? This motherfucker is out there going out for voiceover auditions and producing this shit." Like, he just was so blown away that I had this whole side hustle of VO and commercial acting. And I did do that for a really long time. And I think the last acting job I had, this writer producer named Stephen Falk called me to do a part on You're the Worst, that show You're the Worst.
Yeah, well, yeah, no,
And
yeah, I recall.
it was great, man. It was so fun. But I think that might be it. That might be the last thing I did. I don't know if it's the last thing I'll ever do, but I don't know. I have no immediate plans to dive back in. I don't miss it.
Well, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a break. We're gonna grab a word from our sponsor, Revelton Distilling Company. But you did kind of tease a little bit about Rob Deerdeck. I think Chris's sons would be very excited to hear about a lot of this stuff. I want to learn a little bit more
Right.
about the transition from kind of just getting into producing to I think, frankly, what you spent a lot of your career working on. So we'll go ahead and grab a word from Revelton Distilling Company, and we'll be back in just a second with Shane Nickerson.
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot-tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer.
Welcome back. Once again, this is Old Man Strength, a podcast of Three Beards Media brought to you by Revelton Distilling Company. We are talking with our guest, Shane Nickerson. Shane, before the break, I did mention a little bit that you had already opened the door here. So you had talked about doing kind of segment producing on Big Brother, but you worked more and more with MTV, and certainly I don't know, at one point in our lives, the three of us are certainly old enough to remember when MTV was music. I think there's a decent amount of our listening audience that maybe only knows it as a reality TV show vehicle. Certainly, they kind of invented the genre with Real World, frankly. I think you'd be hard pressed to think of too many before then. Right? But
I think they did, and then they advanced it further with Osbournes. Remember how big Osbournes was?
Yeah.
I think they definitely they were the ones that everyone else followed.
So you cut your teeth kind of on this reality TV show producing, for sure. What was your producing journey like then?
It was really fun. It still is considered a very distant sort of backseat to real TV. But back then it was even more so, like, where we didn't have the same budgets or staffs or, like, department. We didn't have an art department or costume department for any of the stuff we were producing. And it evolved, like, early on in, like, Newlyweds, Nick and Jessica, and this show called Rich Girls, and even to some degree Robin Big, which was the first show that I ran. We didn't produce it as much as Follow. Like, it was more documentary style, where we would really kind of just put cameras around people and just sort of follow them through their lives. That didn't mean that there's not producers saying, like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we went to this store, or why don't we try this? But it was much more docu-follow, and then it evolved later on into being fully produced, not scripted, at least not the stuff we did. It was never scripted, but fully produced, so that it was beat out. We knew the scenes that we had to shoot to tell a good story, because it just made it better. I think there was a bit of a struggle early on about, like, well, this isn't reality anymore, this is something else. But yeah, It was something else. It was kind of a loosely improvised sitcom is what we were making.
Mhm.
But once we cracked the formula of that, it became sustainable because we could shoot it in much less time. It was much less taxing on the talent and on the producers and on the budget. So it was the only logical way to really keep it, I think, a viable medium, because it's just, I'm like Newlyweds, I think something shot for like 5 months to get 12 episodes or something. You just, that doesn't work. You can't do
Yeah.
that. So
I mean, I think that's something that was interesting about uh like Robin Big. So I
yeah,
loved that show because, like you said, it was that docu follow. It did not feel like it had to rely on drama or controversy or you
no,
you
no,
even think
no,
about
no.
you think about your classical narrative show. You need to have protagonists and antagonists and conflict, and that was literally just two guys being affable and goofy and fun,
Yeah,
and just the entire enjoyment, I think, for the audience is that you were just literally watching guys have fun,
yeah,
put on wigs and create characters, or I mean, skating and talking to people, or all of those types of fun things. And I think that kind of created a whole different thing, because so much reality TV was going in a direction that was, whether or not it was scripted, but it was definitely trying to create an arc or a narrative, and that was just more free flowing.
yeah. We definitely didn't want to be that. It was a comedy more than anything else, and so early on the decision was made. So we're never gonna be laughing at the expense of other people. They can make fun of each other, but it's still in a good natured way. But it's not, we're not going out into the world and making someone feel like an asshole, or going into a shop and they're the butt of the joke, or making fun of someone's appearance. Like, it was really a conscious decision to not do that, and to make sure that any comedy came from within this sort of insulated group of characters that we had put together. And each of them had, it was not unlike, I'm not comparing it, by the way, to The Office, but it's not unlike The Office, in which everyone has their role. You know which dynamic you can lean on when you want to create a funny moment, or even a sitcom. Well-written characters. Like, think Seinfeld. You can picture the Seinfeld characters in any situation, and you can almost anticipate their reactions. And I think with good, strong characters in any show, you can do that. And for us, we wanted to have that. We wanted really strong characters that people liked and responded to. But those, keep in mind, are based on actual real people. So Rob on Rob Big is Rob. We're not coaching him on how to be Rob. Rob's Rob. Rob's the brilliant, crazy genius that he's always been. And Big Black is one of the funniest people I've ever known. It's just nonstop funny. Are some of the characteristics heightened for comedy? Yeah, probably. But if you met any of them, you'd recognize them. I don't mean physically, but just personality wise. They are kind of what you see. So yeah, so it was a very unique experience. And it was sort of defying, like you said, the rest of the way the genre was headed. Even I don't want to call out any other shows that were not nice, but there was, well, I'll call out one, like Bad Girls Club, for example, which is, just to me, it just wouldn't be something I'd necessarily be that excited to make.
Real Housewives,
or Real Housewives.
Yeah, right.
Real Housewives, right?
Where
Like,
it's all about
feeding
being,
drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's just not my type of show. It's not something I'd watch. So it's so much easier as a producer. Like, I like to make stuff that I would want to go see. What makes me laugh. My juvenile male sense of humor, I can rely on to guide me toward what's going to be funny if we put it on TV. And it works. It's like there is a huge audience of juvenile, and I'm not even talking about men. Like, plenty of women have sort of a juvenile male sense of humor, or traditionally male sense of humor, and vice versa. But yeah, I'm glad it didn't. I could have easily ended up on a show, by the way, that was more like some of those other ones we mentioned, and I would have worked on it because I needed the money. But because I got connected to Rob, and because we got to do that show, we got to make something really special and fun.
I think your point about conflict and those shows that are driven by conflict, you just look at what's on ESPN and Fox Sports all day long now with, Stephen A and
If I have to
Bayless and
listen to
those
Scott
shows.
to Skip Bayless talk ever again, I will probably
Because all it is screaming back and forth and arguing about the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's true. But if you take, I mean, I think a show more closer to the tone of what I'd be into is Shaq and the NBA, those guys on TNT
Right.
versus
Yeah.
TBS.
I
think they're on
that-
both, but yeah.
no.
that
Kenny
energy
Smith
is so
and-
much more
yes.
fun. Like nobody's safe within their world. They can all make fun of each other, but it's very rarely like just, I don't know, polarizing, angry talk show fodder type crap.
To me,
Kenny
that
Smith just
show is-
shoved Shaq into a Christmas
Yes.
tree the other day.
Yes.
I thought
Oh,
that
I
was
loved it.
hysterical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, that
I
show
loved
is
it.
more just like my buddies were sitting around, cracking on each other and making fun of each other and
Yeah.
laughing and having a good time. That I would watch that. The conflict and the constant screaming and the written conflict, right? Like you can some of these opinions that they have, you just know that you were told this is the side of the debate that you're going to take and you're going to argue.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So Shane, how did it happen that you came to get hooked up with Rob and that team?
Okay, so I had just finished up doing working on a show with Cameron Diaz called Trippin', and it was this eco travel like she would bring some other celebrities around to different parts of the world that had issues like ecological issues, or obviously I'm not pitching the show very well, but like go to Yellowstone and see the way that the wildlife was affected by certain things happening. And it was kind of an educational eco travel show, right?
Mm-hmm.
I finished that show up, and I had been working with MTV for a while, and they started to think of me as a guy to put on stuff that they knew they kind of liked, but wanted a little bit more focused to clarify maybe what the idea was or whatever. So I'd done a couple projects that way, and they called me and wanted to introduce me to Jeff Tremaine and Ruben Fleischer and Rob to talk about this project they had shot. They'd already shot it, and it was called Rob and Big Black. And so the way that show came up, by the way, is that Ruben was doing a documentary segment for the Gumball 3000 rally race, and Rob and Big Black were partners in a rally car, or in a, like the Gumball rally, like it. Yeah.
Yep.
And loved them, and went to Jeff Tremaine and was like, you got to see these guys. And Jeff already knew them from the skate world.
Jeff of Jackass fame.
Jeff of Jackass fame. Yeah. And Wild Boys and tons of other shit. Great shit. And so they all knew each other anyway. Rob kind of knew Jeff because Jeff used to be the creative head of Big Brother magazine, and there was this skate connection to Jeff and Rob already, and Ruben knew him anyway. So they shot this thing, and it was pretty funny, but they'd gotten so many notes from MTV that just made it this big kind of mess of characters and ideas, and jammed in devices to try to make the show something, for an audience to understand, like Rob Dyrdek's rules to success. And, they'd like put the rule up and he'd say rule number 1, just stuff that really didn't work. And so I had a chance. So they introduced me to them, and those guys were kind of at the end of their rope on with the network, I think, because they were just getting so much pushback. And Rob had gone in to sell this thing as a buddy comedy, which is what it was on the original DC video, where they first did the bit, where Rob hired a security guard to deal with security guards. They got a great reaction, great response. So he thought it'd be a good TV show. And so I had some time to look at it, and I got to chat with Ruben and Jeff about kind of what I thought it was, which was more like what they originally thought it was, which was just pared down Rob and Big Black as the two leads, almost like an odd couple, a modern day odd couple.
Mm-hmm.
And so we stripped out all of the stuff that had been jammed in and got it back to that, reshot some of it, and it worked. And they picked it up as a series, and it was so fun. It was so fun because I don't want to say that MTV had given up on it, but I don't know that they had high hopes for it early on. So we got to go make this show without that much outside input, because I think they just thought, it might be able to work, maybe it won't. So we really just got to run around Hollywood making the funniest thing we could make. And actually that first season, it was much more Ruben Fleischer. I don't even think I was in the field for most of the first season. That was mostly Ruben and Jeff. And then those guys went off to do movies, and I got to kind of take over the day-to-day running of the show, which is still my favorite, both hardest and most rewarding job I've ever had. It was awesome. We did that for 3 seasons.
I mean, like you said, like the general conceit of the show was that Big Black was Rob's bodyguard, and it kind of always got pitched that way in the intro, but it never really turned into that. It really was more just this odd couple thing, which, you know, at the time, Rob was a known entity within kind of an insular community, but he wasn't a household name. Certainly not
by no means.
Certainly not the way that he is now, right?
Not outside of the skate community, I don't think. I mean, the skate people definitely knew Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But outside of that community, he was definitely being introduced to a chunk of the MTV audience upon that show premiering.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, certainly, like I said, I was a fan because there was this odd couple chemistry. These two people that couldn't be more opposite in so many ways, from physical appearance to temperament to, you know, any number of ways, to Rob being crazy to Big Black being, you know, quiet and understated, and it worked so well for so many of those things. But I can definitely see where it requires someone like yourself to take the chaos that was and kind of actually try to help it develop.
Well, let me tell you something. If you put a camera on those two guys, when we put a camera on those two guys, they were funny all the time, every time. We did not have to do anything to make them funny. They were so friggin' funny. The hardest part of it was post is editing this thing and finding our way through telling the story, trying to preserve as much of the funny stuff as we could without losing the way on making it a coherent story. But yeah, it was the thing is, like, from the beginning, and this is what I always tell people, Rob knew what it was and what it could be and kind of what it would become from the beginning. And the frustration he had was that no one listened to him at MTV. You know, they didn't believe him, I don't think. Now, he had plenty to learn about TV production, but that's just the sort of clunky, you know, how do editors work and who does what on the show. And, you know, filming was somewhat new, but as far as like what he envisioned and what he thought the show would do, not just as entertainment, but for his career and for his business trajectory, that was all in there from the beginning. It was all part of the plan. It was a means to an end in many ways, I think.
So that was basically kind of the nascency of a relationship, really, with him that you developed, where there's been a lot more that's come. So what did that look like as you've kind of figured? Because obviously, you know, there's been a lot more that's come from all of that.
Well, yeah, it evolved. You know, it evolved after that first season. We connected creatively on the show, and it was successful, which helped, because I think then we both started to trust ourselves and each other on that collaboration. And I think season 2 might have been season 3 of Rob and Big. He came out one day, we were there shooting, and he came out and he goes, "I want to show you something." And he had an episode of Hollywood Reporter or it might have been Variety, and it had Vin DeBona on the cover, and he said this, and the article was about how America's Funniest Home Videos was $1 billion business.
Mhm.
And so and he was genuinely and already organically one of those people who was just obsessed with viral videos, even before YouTube. Like skate videos, obviously that world, stuff gets passed around and you see a lot of stuff, and it was something that genuinely delighted him. So it was his idea to just pace up the flow of a show like AFV or any of the other mini clip shows that had come before it, pace it up and really make it specifically for an MTV audience, but more importantly, from kind of his point of view, and that irreverence that he had built as a character trait and integral part of our show. You know, the left of center thinking, and, you know, creative problem solving in a way that most people wouldn't do, but that gets you to a really funny ending. We just wanted to apply all of that same stuff that people already knew and liked about him to this clip brand, this clip show brand. And we pitched it to MTV and they really liked it, but we first pitched it to Fox. We pitched it to Mike Darnell at Fox. And I've told the story before, but we were so afraid that they wouldn't have something to play, that we wouldn't be able to pause, because the show, if you watch the show, like they'll pause videos and he points stuff out, but we want to be able to do that in a room, and we weren't sure that they'd have the capability with a VCR, or which I guess back then would be a VCR, DVD player, not a VCR. That's
Yeah.
too far back. DVD player.
I was gonna say, this is not that old, Shane,
But pretty
yeah.
close. So we brought an Xbox in to the pitch and had an Xbox remote control for us to stop and pause the videos and run through it. Anyway, MTV bought it, they liked it, but then it didn't happen. And then Rob and Big ended and they wanted something else. So then it kind of got shelved for a second. And then we did Fantasy Factory, which is kind of like almost like an evolution of Rob and Big, getting it out of his house, moving it to, you know, this crazy warehouse that he's in, more of an office workplace comedy than a
Sure.
house comedy. And then, you know, it's kind of blurry in my head how many times we pitched it, but it was at least 2 or 3 to MTV before they finally bid on it and they ordered 16 episodes. And then Ridiculousness, which is the most recent of all the shows we've done with Rob, is now going for, I think we're in season 30 with like at least 5 or 6 more to come. Yeah.
That's crazy.
No,
So that's the one that, you know, that's the one you hope for.
No, it certainly is. I think about you all the time when I'm, you know, flipping through the channels, and I think
You can't escape it.
I know, like literally 11 times out of 10, I pass by MTV. Ridiculousness is on. I think it is 106% of MTV's programming at this point.
It's actually like something like 83% of their programming.
Wow.
I'm not even kidding. It's
I was
an
gonna say,
insane amount.
I'm laughing because I know that you're not joking, because it
No.
is an insane amount.
It is. Yes, it is an insane amount. Just a perfect storm of everything. The network that it's on and the longevity and the way we built it kind of has allowed it to live this long. And yeah, just a dream. The whole thing honestly has been a dream.
So when you turn on your TV and you see it, do you just giggle?
I love it. I mean, obviously, the more I see it, the better. But when I especially love it is if I'm traveling and we're at some random hotel, and especially internationally. If I'm somewhere international and I flip through and Ridiculousness is on the dial, I'm so excited. And the awesome thing about the international version is nothing's beeped. So you just watch the show with all of the swearing and all of the cuss words, and feels like you're cheating.
Even better that way.
Yeah. No, I like it, but I got to be honest, I don't often like throw it on and sit and watch an episode if I'm sitting in a hotel. I like seeing it in the guide, and then I'll go to find a game to watch.
I first ran across it. I was going to a gym in West Des Moines here, and it was probably 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning, and all the TVs were either on some news program or morning news, or this show with this guy sitting there with a couple people on the couch watching these videos. And I was like, what it, and you can't hear it, so you're trying to work out and follow the closed captioning, and I was like, what is this? I don't even know what this is. So of course I had to go home. After a while, I think I was saying something to the kids, and they're like, you don't know that show? And I was like, no, I don't watch MTV. I'm old. I have no freaking idea. But I did start to watch it when it was up there, and it was, to your point. I mean, some of those videos that are on there, you're just like, I mean, how is that even possible? Where do those?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm assuming those all get submitted to you guys. There's a way to submit those, but how does that
No,
process work as far as vetting it?
no, we don't take any submissions. They won't. MTV's legal department from season 1 requested that we don't.
Because they're afraid
Don't.
people would try things that were dangerous, or
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's valid. I mean, maybe not as much anymore because when the show started, YouTube was only 4 years old, 5 years old. But now I think people make content to live online as opposed to making it for a brand like ridiculousness. But back then, I do think that it was a valid concern. Maybe, I don't know. But we do just fine going and finding it ourselves. And I love, I mean, I both hate and love social media because social media provides so much gold, like especially TikTok now, Instagram. Like these are places where we didn't get content in the early years of the show because it just didn't really exist the way it does now. But we thought when we started the show, we thought we have maybe 2 or 3 years of clips and then we're going to be out. We're going to tap the internet out. But obviously couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, it is an endless just fountain of trash to mine. And and it has evolved, which is great. Like you think of the old school like clips from when you guys were kids and watching it on, AFV or something. And it was like these home movies sent in on videotape. And that evolved into YouTube clips, which is, now it's Instagram and TikTok and so many other places where these live. And so our focus is not, like I said, since we don't take submissions, our focus is then sourcing who the originator of the clip is, who owns it, who filmed it, and going and licensing it. So we license everything and we pay for them too. So people get paid for their content and they sign an agreement to let us use it. We're never just taking it and putting it on TV, at least not knowingly. And I feel good about that because it allows the show to live on forever because we actually have releases on it. And B, I'm a believer that people should get paid for their content.
Yeah. So that brings up two questions for me. One, I'm glad that you say that because I think one of the challenges that I have with TikTok and Instagram Reels and so many of these things is that so many people are just it. Certainly, a lot of TikTok is literally lip syncing, but a lot of TikTok is also virtual lip syncing, and by that I mean they're doing something that's already been done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it really is. It's viral video karaoke in a way. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing new being done on so many of these things. To the point where it gets annoying because sometimes the video that goes viral isn't the video of the creator. So many times somebody says or does something funny and then someone lip syncs it later and that's the one that takes off, not the original one. And so
that's true.
The original creator doesn't get that. So I appreciate you said that. But I think the thing that I'm really thinking of is so, when you guys started 30 seasons ago, it was in that kind of pre-viral video era, and now we're in a completely different era where people are constantly, I mean, my friends and I are constantly sending each other TikToks and Instagram Reels and all of those things. What is it about ridiculousness that has been able to kind of stand through all of that is not, because it's changed considerably.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of changed. I don't. It's whatever. A funny clip is still a funny clip and has been for so long. Why it works, and we've seen since we started the show, we've seen so many people try to do a similar show, and clip shows fail almost as much as sketch shows fail. because mostly because yes, the clips are funny and they're always going to be funny, and yes, anyone can find them on YouTube, and that was what we'd hear early on. Well, I'll just go watch it on YouTube. Yes, you can go watch it on YouTube, but we're curating them, and we're curating them through the mind of a host that people like and respond to, and a co-host in Stilo and Chanel. And so again, we've got characters who are people that people like and want to hear from and kind of anticipate what they're going to say about this clip that they may have probably seen. It's not like we're looking for exclusive clips. It's not even like we won't show classic clips.
Sure.
When we started, there were viral clips. You know, there definitely were. Like, I think first season we had a clip like the Charlie bit my finger. You know, one of the sort of like the classic old school YouTube viral clips. The only difference is where they live now, and in some cases, trends evolve, and there's new ways of framing clips that content creators figure out. Even if it's like, have you ever seen the TikTok guy who does the voice of the pets? Like there's one dog that's on the stairs, and there's another dog that's running back and forth in the top, and this guy is doing the VO for it, and it's hilarious. And so we'll use any of that stuff that people have added a layer to, because it's super interesting, and I love seeing it all evolve. I love seeing the evolution of comedy, because it's an evolution of comedy and the way people interact. That's why I love TikTok. I know what you're describing is true. There are people that will kind of recreate the classic TikToks, or the ones that make people laugh, but there's also an entire other side of TikTok that's just original content, funny content, brilliant content, musicians, singers. I mean, I tweeted, not jokingly, and I think people thought I was being facetious. It is like to me, it's like the Renaissance, man. It's like there's so much art there. Granted, it's short form, arguably disposable art, but there are people on there that are so fucking brilliant that it sometimes, I'm not kidding, will bring me to tears with their voices and their ability. I love it. I can't get enough of it. I really, really love it. I'm so addicted to it, because it's like, I think it can be the best of humanity in 2 to 3 minute videos. I mean, I know that sounds like a hyperbole, but I'm being totally genuine.
No, I just know that you've not ever visited Chris's TikTok.
Listen, I know how to skip too. Like that's the great thing about swiping.
You don't want to skip on me. I'm just telling you. I'm a gem.
That's the other great thing, is like you have these sort of curated audiences based on what the things I like or not. For you, the algorithm, all that shit's so fascinating, because whatever pops up for me on TikTok is probably tailored mostly for me, and it's evolving constantly based on what I scroll through. I find that riveting. It's amazing.
Tim can make fun of me, and that's fine. It wouldn't be the first time or the 180th time that it's happened, but it is funny what clicks on that app, right? Like I have posted stuff about, my cancer journey and things like that I think are, important and inspiring, and it gets, 200 views, whatever. And then I decide to film myself.
Hold on, sorry, 1 second, guys. Oh, my wife needs her car key, and I apparently have it. Oh, there you go. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
That's all right. But
I like to interrupt people as they're talking about their cancer journey.
I was gonna say that made me.
I'm so
what you're
sorry.
saying is you just swiped right on past that video.
Shane,
I get it. Where are the chicks dancing at the beach?
You have no idea how infinitely happy it made me when Chris went to this cancer well once again.
No, Chris, please go back. All right, I'm coming. I'm swiping back. I'm going back.
But the point is that, but somehow a friend of mine videotaped me mishitting a golf ball so bad that got over 600,000 views. Like, that's what's so crazy. You know what I mean? So
because Chris, that's so much funnier than cancer.
Right, because I was right. Yes. I'm aware, Shane. I'm aware.
I'm just kidding, but it is.
I don't know, man.
I actually,
room is pretty funny.
There was a creator that was complaining. I don't even know who she is, or what's so funny is you'll see someone that'll say say something that's enough to be like, oh, I should go back and watch whatever is leading up to this drama. But she said,
Yes.
isn't it crazy that I've posted all this stuff and I post one thing where I flash the, you know, I flash myself and it has 1.2 million views. I'm like, well, I better go see which clip that is. But I think similar frustration where it's like these people, a lot of people are trying to create meaningful content and they'll post this one sort of thing like, all right, sure, I'll throw this up, and it crushes because who knows, you know, it's like, what is broadly appealing to people? And I think it's something that just for whatever reason has that little bit of magic that keeps people involved and keeps them excited and wants it, and they want more. That's what happens for me. It's like, I can tell you, I'm so good now at knowing if a TikTok's worth watching in the first 3 seconds. I'm so good, and I'm almost always right. And sometimes I'll just wait to see if I'm still right. And I'll be like, yep, that does suck. I knew it quick, and it does suck.
Well, that's like Chris, you know, if you would have just taken all your chemo pictures and just played yakety sax over the top of it, I think that would have worked way better.
Much better. That's right.
Somebody gets
it. Yakety
Oh
sax.
my goodness. Anyway, boy, I hate to make this transition. Kyle, I apologize to make this transition, but we do need to take a break to get a word from our sponsor, Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. And we will be back with our Wintrust Mortgage sponsored question. So we will be right back after this break. Oh God, that's funny. That's perfect. We're nothing if not awkward. That's great. Okay, cool. You guys ready to hop back in?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. We are back, and as I so eloquently stated right before that break, we do have our Wintrust Mortgage question sponsored by Kyle Lehman at Wintrust.
Okay, hold on. I'm so curious to know what this is because it sounds like you're saying Wintrust. Is it Wintrust?
Wintrust.
Wintrust. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yes, Wintrust.
Yeah.
The most winterous.
I know nothing about. I know nothing. So it's all I'm trying to in my head. I'm like, okay, was this question specifically a mortgage related question, or is it a question brought to you by a mortgage? It feels like integrated marketing on our show, where it's like we have to try to jam in some products and loosely tangentially connect it to the.
Yeah.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it sort of is. No, so
Okay.
so we do have. This is not a mortgage related question, although Shane, if I were to get a mortgage right now, what interest rate could I expect?
Is you really want to know the answer to that?
Do you have the answer?
No.
Okay, good. Because that's
But
my question.
I guess that it would be close to 6.
They're over 7 right now. As someone
Are
who's
they
looking to
really?
buy, they're over 7. Is that not ridiculous?
It's ridiculous because in December of last year, it was under 3.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. When I think about what the mortgage rate was on my first home and what they're sitting at right now, I just weep.
Yeah, what can you do?
2 years ago,
well,
I
I-
refinanced.
Weep. That's what I can do.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I cry a lot mostly.
Chris,
So-
what did you say 2 years ago?
2
What?
years ago, I refinanced with Kyle at 2.5%.
There you go. Smart.
Yeah. Someone
thing
was
you
on
did
top
that.
of
Kyle
that.
hooked me up.
So anyway, our Wintrust mortgage question for you, Shane Nickerson, is:
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
If you could go back, we normally say 5 years, but I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna go back 20 years.
Okay.
You get the DeLorean. You get to go back in time. You don't get the sports almanac, but you do get to visit 2002 Shane Nickerson, and you get to give him advice. what would you tell him?
Hmm. Um, I would tell him not to worry so much about what everyone thinks. That's what I'd tell him. I'd tell him not to worry so much about everyone thinks, not to worry so much about what everyone thinks, and that when he gets to be an older man, he'll realize that none of that shit matters.
Mhm.
And I would tell him to go buy Tesla stock the minute that he hears about it. No, I think I would. That's a really good question. And I wouldn't. It's not like I'd be scared to say anything because I wouldn't want to change the path that I've taken. I think hard-earned lessons are important, and I don't know that anything I would say would change his mind anyway. You kind of have to live through stuff to really understand it. How many times has a parent told you something or told you not to worry or that it's not going to matter or that there's bigger things later, but not really, not then, not for that kid at that moment. That is the most important thing right then. And so it's reductive. Is that the right word? I don't know if it is, but I do like that word. But it doesn't serve any purpose to try to calm someone down by telling them to calm down or don't worry about it if they're worried about it.
Uh-huh.
It's much, I think, more effective to say, I guess so. Let me tell you again what I would tell them. You're doing great. You're doing great. Just keep going. Just keep going. And do the best with the information you have at the time. I mean, that's all any of us can do, hopefully. And I think most people are truly doing that. I don't think a lot of people have the best information, but I think most people are doing the best with the information they have.
I like that. I like that one a lot. That's maybe a little bit of a twist on what I think a lot of people have said for us, but I like
Yeah.
that one an awful lot. I think man, sometimes I think all we really need is just a vote of confidence more than anything
Yeah.
else. Right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, I think it's true.
And we've talked a lot about that on our podcast about whether or not it is the right thing to want to change anything that happened to you in the past, because you don't know what that affects what you are now. And if you're happy and content, do you really want to go back and change this or that? And
Oh dear, no! I will totally test that butterfly effect out right now. I will definitely.
What are you going back and changing?
Everything.
What is it that you would change then that you couldn't change right now?
Oh God damn it, Shane! Why you gotta be like that?
It's a great question.
This is not your podcast, Shane. No,
I just asking.
Yeah, no, I think no, it is fair. And I think that's definitely something I've learned over the course of my career. I was talking with some friends earlier today because and a lot of the things that you said earlier have kind of come up where, you got into producing not because you went to school to be a producer, but because you hung around the right people and you learned the right things and you kind of developed the skill set over time. And the industry that I'm in as a brewer, I think a lot of times people feel like they're trapped in brewing because how do you translate that skill set? And everyone will give you the platitudes. Oh, you can go ahead and do all of these things. But the reality is sometimes it's a lot harder to convince. Certainly, it's a lot harder to convince hiring managers that what I do really translates. But for me, man, I was an art and theater major. I worked at the headquarters of Best Buy and Buffalo Wild Wings, and I worked in a cognitive neuroscience lab for a while, and I've been all over the place. And I've been a brewer for the last 8-9 years. And that's the one that it took me that long to find the pocket on who I want to be and what I want to do. Someday I'd like to find a way to take the money that I used to make when I was unhappy and bring it to the money that I don't make right now that I am happy and be able to combine them. I think your point of there's a journey that you can't express to someone in the reality that they're living in at that time, what a different reality is or could be. And so
No.
just helping people to understand how to make the most of the reality that they're in and be prepared to shift, I think is a very important lesson that I don't know that everyone can fully articulate. So I do appreciate you saying that for sure.
No, sure. I mean, listen, I think about it all the time. My wife we were just talking about it because my wife recently connected for the first time with her birth father.
Mhm.
She never knew and wasn't able to know because it was a sealed record that she didn't have access to as an adoptee. But she found him through ancestry.com. So she spends a whole lot of time agonizing over what ifs and what could have beens. And I always compare it to, and this is a Harry Potter reference, so forgive me, but I always compare it to the mirror of Erised in Harry Potter, where you can stare in it to get to see the things you want most in the world. And it's attractive and compelling and addictive and hopeless because it's not real and it's something that you'll never have. And you can spend a little bit of time there just to scratch the itch, but I think you can linger too long in nostalgia and in wishing to change something that's just over. So that means you have to, I think, as a person, get to the point in your life where you can spend a tiny bit of time in the past, spend a little bit of time thinking about what might happen in the future, and spend most of the time dealing with what's happening right now, because it truly is all we have. And I know that sounds really pat, but it's true. It right now, right this second, is really all we have, and everything else is imagined. Past and future is imagined, even changing the past, even the exercise of what would you tell yourself. I mean, it's fun, but obviously you can't tell the person anything, because it would, first of all, then he'd be like, wait, time travel exists? And secondly, he'd be like, what do I look like? Do you have pictures? Wait, what's in your hand?
Right.
And you'd be like, oh, fuck, that's nothing. No, don't worry about that. That's fucking 18 years away, actually. But yeah, no, it's fun, but you got to deal with today. Like, what makes you happy today? What things can I change today to make myself happy right now? And hopefully that'll last into the future. But if it doesn't, then what do I change next? What's the next thing?
Shane, the thing I appreciate about you is in the past 2 minutes is that you are exactly what your blog was 10 years ago. Simultaneously profound and completely nerdy to like an unrelenting point.
I thoroughly enjoyed the Harry Potter reference.
Well,
On
you
the
guys get it. I know
contrary,
you
I
both
now
get
would
it.
like to give an entire list of things that I would like to change about Tim.
Perfect.
That's great. Let's just do a quick segment. It's another half-hour segment on what we can change about Tim.
Right.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Tim and how can we fix it?
That's a whole other podcast. You could get my ex-wife on. I'm sure that would fill hours. Shane, we do have one very last segment, and I'm actually going to let Chris go ahead and introduce this very last segment.
Okay,
Great.
so this segment is again partially sponsored by Steph Copley, a previous guest of ours, who at one point basically told me and Tim, more Tim than me, that we had to STFU and just let her talk and give her opinion. So in combination with Steph, we made donations to the to the Des Moines Young Women's Resource Center here that empowers women to donate. So we are going to slip a clip in here from Steph, and then when we come back, we'll ask you to donate, and then we're going to shut the fuck up, Shane, and let you say whatever you want to say.
Hey everybody, it's Steph Copley, the woman behind the STFU segment on the Old Man Strength podcast. When I told the guys I wanted to sponsor this segment, they recommended that I make a charitable donation instead, so that's what I did. I chose the Young Women's Resource Center in Des Moines, Iowa. They're a nonprofit that supports, educates, and advocates for girls and young women ages 10 to 24. Their whole goal is to make sure that these young women become strong, self-confident, and successful. And if you know me at all, you know that aligns with my goals as well. If you're interested and would like to donate, check them out at ywrc.org. stfU.org and donate today. And remember, don't forget to STFU and listen every once in a while. Thanks.
All right. So, Shane, this is when we shut the fuck up and you say whatever you
Oh,
want.
now is when I talk? I thought
There
I
you
thought I
go.
was gonna watch a clip. Oh, I thought you were gonna show me a clip.
No, I cut that in my great editing that I do.
I don't
Podcasting is
shut up
magic, just like
yet,
TV.
Yeah.
God, I don't give me a topic to start with. Give me a prompt. Then you can shut the fuck up. Before you shut the fuck up, give me a prompt.
Are we back at the groundlings? Is that what's going on? You're asking for
Yeah,
for
I
an
need a
improv
location.
prompt?
Give me a location where someone might be in a podcast.
I don't know what he's talking about, Tim, so I'll let you do that.
No,
Wait, let me ask you guys a question first. You answer it and then answer it quickly, and then I'll talk after that.
All right.
Perfect.
What's the goal with your podcast here? What's your goal?
My goal is to give people a chance to hear great stories and be inspired.
My goal is to just have an excuse to talk to people that I've always wanted to talk to.
That's great. I love that. Man, you guys really put me on the spot. I don't have anything else to say. Well, I think it's great that you're making a podcast. And I did a podcast for like 5 episodes, I think 6 episodes. And I did something similar where I reached out to people that I really respected and looked up to. And it was so enlightening to me. Because for me, it was specifically the thrust of my podcast was I wanted to know people's trajectory. I wanted to know, how did you get to, and as it specifically relates to the entertainment industry, everyone that I brought in had a career in entertainment. So I was so fascinated by how someone can have that dream to move out here to work in an almost impossible business and succeed on some level. I was really fascinated by it. And I also just got to talk to my friends, which was nice, because you don't get to talk to your friends that way in real life. It's just a weird thing to say at a party. Like, hey, can you tell me your trajectory and like how you got here? And like, just tell me the whole story in like a half hour. But in a podcast, you can ask whatever questions you want and it sparks ideas. And so I think it was satisfying for me. I was sad to see it end, but yeah, but it has to be a labor of love, I think, right? You guys must love it because you can't talk, I know, but you can nod, because otherwise you'd get sick of it fast. I don't like this segment, you guys. I need people responding to me. I need an audience. I need some sort of response. Like I need a laugh or like a weird look to know I'm headed in the right direction, or no, change gears, next side.
I think you're exactly right though. I mean, our goals, I think Tim and I have similar goals when, you know, those can be interchangeable, but I know when we started this 2 years ago, it has evolved into something that it's important. It's special to me. I know that. I enjoy getting to talk to people that I've never met before. It's been enjoyable to have people that are local businessmen around here that I think that their story is interesting. So we wanted to bring them on. And even then we've talking to former NBA players and people that have went to our alma mater, and now, people that are producing television shows. I mean, it's never in my wildest dreams would I think that I'd be in a position to be able to talk to interesting people and have interesting conversations like that. So to me, it's just a labor of being able to learn people's stories. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally just something that came up over the pandemic, when we were both kind of bored and trying to figure out what was going on. And I've made this joke before, but we really sat down and said, who is underrepresented in the world? And we said a straight old white men are probably underrepresented.
They just don't have a big enough voice right now.
Nobody hears enough from them.
Yeah, nobody hears enough from them. But seriously, it really was just an opportunity to reach out a little bit more. And yeah, man, there are times where it's like, oh man, I don't know that I have the energy. Like, my job is very physically demanding. Some days I'm just tired. The only thing I want to do is get into an Epsom salt bath. Because I'm going to put the old man in old man strength. I literally just want to soak in
Epsom
a bath.
salt.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
do you go back in time to do it? Do you go to like 1914 and do it too?
I'm
Where do
so
you get the
glad he
hot
didn't bring
water?
up
Do you have to
the
go heat it up outside and bring it in?
I do. Well, I'm just trying to avoid a
Pump the
case of
well?
consumption.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
I'm glad
No.
you didn't talk about the candles and the bourbon. I still
Oh,
can't get that.
anyway. So anyway, no, we very much appreciate this. We always joke this podcast is about us having all the answers, but really it's because there are all these amazing people with amazing stories that we can learn a lot from, and I think our listeners enjoy learning a lot from. And Shane, I said at the top that you're someone that I've always kind of enjoyed following from a distance, and our paths have kind of roughly crossed, but this is a great opportunity to be able to sit down and learn a little bit more, and I can't thank you enough for coming on here.
Oh, it's honestly my I'm always so happy when anyone wants to hear me talk about anything. So it's been great. Thank you for inviting me, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Is there anything, I'm gonna probably close out here for in a bit. Is there anything else you kind of want to plug? Is there any way that people can come find you?
Not really.
Any great recipes you want to share? Anything like that?
I've been enjoying the World Cup. Does that count as anything? You can go find the World Cup on Fox. No, I don't have.
I was just going to ask you about that. I found your Twitter page and I see you've tweeted quite a bit about the World
Oh, I
Cup.
love it.
I
I've
do
been
too.
so obsessed with. I've been so obsessed with football for I think it's about 7 years now, and each year it seems to grow. And I go with my buddy every year to England, and we go see a bunch of Premier League games and some non-league games, and just whatever we can see, or matches. If there's going to be people out there, it's matches, not game. But World Cup is like Christmas. Every morning I wake up, and sometimes I'll wake up at like 6. I'm like, there's a game on right now. I can go watch something right now. I'm into it, man. I'm so into it. It's eclipsed my love for any other sport. I can't watch NFL anymore. I'll throw baseball on for a second just for the nostalgia factor, but I'm 100% hooked by soccer.
Well, there
And
you
I think
go.
Brazil's going to win it all. I predict Brazil will win it all.
Oh, perfect. No, I like that. I was just gonna say, there's your plug for soccer.
Yeah.
Because soccer needs a PR man.
I don't have any. To get back to your original question, I don't have anything to plug. I don't really tweet anymore. My Instagram is pretty dormant. I don't live as much on social media or on the internet as I used to. I just don't. I don't know why. Maybe I'll go back at some point, but nothing to plug.
Perfect. All right. Well, we have a few things to plug as part of Old Man Strength and Three Beards Media. We have a lot of great other podcasts that we want to make sure people are listening to, including Fill in the Blank with Anya, Saya the Storm, a Hot Mess Happy Hour. If you have not listened to those ladies, it is a hot mess and it is a happy hour. It is a lot of fun. My other podcast, Bitter Units. Chris, what else do we have to plug that I am missing?
I believe that is it, other than our new one coming on board in 2023, the Des Moines Police Department partnership, Inside the Tape. So with Sergeant Paul Parisi, Heather Burnside, and Dave Campbell.
Absolutely. So a lot of great content. Please go ahead and visit us on the web at Three Beards Media. You can find me on Twitter, while Twitter is still a thing, at Tim Johnson, and you can find Chris at Sidad. This podcast at strength_old. The Three Beards Media Twitter handle is Chris
At Three Beards Media.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect. Very tricky, very hard to find.
I got that one right. The Old Man Strength I got backwards.
Anyway, once again, Shane, we are very delighted that you joined us. Thank you. Please, everyone, go ahead and check Shane out, or don't. I don't know. He's not sharing anything. Go hunt him down.
Listen, if you're dying to check out my Twitter, it's at Shane Nickerson. It's just it's pretty slow over there. So Go to Tim Johnson or whatever Chris's handle was. I didn't get that. Kiggly Wiggly. What was it? I missed it.
Squiggly Wiggly. Yes, go ahead and please go check out Chris at Squiggly Wiggly.
Chris, what was yours, Chris?
It's Sigrad Sidad.
See, that's not. I don't even. My brain can't spell that. So can you spell that for me?
CY.
Yeah.
GRADCYDAD.
You see, he can't even spell it, so it doesn't even make sense that you can.
I just followed you. So.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. I'll find you too.
Anyway, listeners, thank you very much. And with that, we will see you guys next time.